We have a problem.
Maya's gone. She's kidnapped by aliens.
Aliens.
Hello and welcome to this new episode of Chronicles. I'm Fouzan, your host. Our guest this episode is Ajay Sarpeshkar sir from the Mechanical Engineering batch of 1998. We're really excited and happy to have you on this episode, sir. Could you go ahead and give us an introduction about yourself?
Well, hello everybody. My name is Ajay Sarpeshkar, and Fouzan, thank you for putting this podcast together. Well, as you mentioned, I'm from the 1998 batch of Mechanical Engineering Department at UVCE, and I have meandered through a life doing very many things, and my current avatar is of a filmmaker, and my film Mandala, the UFO Incident, a science fiction film in Kannada, is out in theaters right now. And I'm really excited to chat with you and share whatever I've learned through my journey to get here so far.
Absolutely, sir. So, about the film Mandala, the UFO Incident, it's a Kannada film that's also a sci-fi. And we were actually just talking about how this isn't a very common thing. And there are a lot of other things that aren't very usual about this movie. So, do you want to take us through that artistic choice that you made?
Sure, yeah. So that's a very loaded question because when I'm thinking of where to start answering this question, I think all of my life kind of flashes in front of my eyes, because the choice to make a science fiction film actually has a background in technology, right? Has a background in art, has a background in curiosity, has a background in being fascinated with the universe, and a general curiosity of what could be out there, right? So, and also science fiction kind of helps you dream quite a bit, right? And we grew up with Star Wars, Star Trek, and great science fiction films. I remember when we were doing engineering, the Matrix movie came out, and it really blew our minds. And I think at that point, we came out of the theater dazed, not understanding, but feeling that we had seen something of value. We had seen something that was really deep. And you can see a lot of literature on that film online that talk about its alignment with reality and alternate realities and things like that, and of the mind. So science fiction was a choice that was born out of me based on all the experiences that I've had so far in my life.
Now, this movie also stars Mr. Prakash Belawadi, who is also an alumni of UVCE. So, how was it like working with a fellow UVCE alumni? Was there a sense of familiarity that you couldn't quite put your finger on?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, definitely. Having common ground with anybody in the world, any human being in the world, is always a plus, right? As you guys will realize as you finish your engineering and start your careers, as you grow in your careers, you realize that more than what you've studied, more than the knowledge that you have of a technical subject, what matters that will propel you further is your people skills, your soft skills, your common ground that you can find with other people, and that becomes very important. So anything that you can find, any common ground that you can find, is always helpful in bringing that familiarity with the other person and the person you're working with. And it always builds trust. So, and trust is something very important in anything that you do in your careers. So it definitely helped with Prakash Belawadi when I was working with him. The initial meeting that I had with him, we figured out that we were alumni of UVCE, and he is from the Mechanical Engineering Department as well. So it was a good chat to have, and I think somewhere for him to come on board with this film, because it was my first film, and also a really weird subject of science fiction that not many people have kind of dabbled with. For him to say yes, because he's a veteran actor, he's an activist, he's a journalist, he's been a journalist, he does theater. So there is very less time on his hands to entertain anybody and everybody. So I think us having some sort of similar background helped him kind of have that trust in me to say, okay, maybe there's something of value here that we can work with. So that was my experience. I mean, there's a lot more experience in terms of making the movie itself, but as far as UVCE is concerned and my relationship with Prakash Belawadi, I think that helped build trust initially for us to get on this long journey that we have done to get here.
What balance were you trying to strike when you were making this, like when you were drawing out this plot, or when you were arranging a particular scene and trying to really hammer home a particular feeling? And obviously you had to do that consistently for many scenes together, right? So what special attention were you giving to one particular feeling or one particular concept while making the movie that other sci-fis probably missed the mark on?
Well, I am not sure about other sci-fi missing marks because art is very subjective, and I don't want to sound arrogant by comparing this to anything else. But you asked a very good question because it talks about the sensibility of the filmmaker, right, in making something, and that sensibility, I think, for me, has been built over the years, starting with UVC, of course, and my schooling also. What you learn, who you interact with, how your mind processes things, what you read, what you study, what you think of, everything builds over time to make you the person who you are with the sensibilities that you have. And that is something that I wanted to touch a little later. Is the concept of compounding, and I'll come to it later. But that compounding is something that builds your character, that builds your personality, that builds wealth, that builds your knowledge, that builds you over time. And that over time, a lot of things can happen. So incremental improvements, incremental learning, incremental effort leads to something fantastic at the end of it all. And I think with this film, that sensibility that I had to make this film has been built over time. And with the scenes, with making science fiction, I think we've all been spoiled by Hollywood films, right? They've had a head start on this, at least 30 to 40 years head start easily. So they've been there, done that, but still there is a lot of great stories to be told in an Indian context with a spine of science fiction. And that is what fascinated me. That is what made me kind of get into this. And like I said, science fiction, it opens up your mind, right, to possibilities. You can build your own worlds. You can build your own universe. You can create a lot of things in that. And I think as engineers, we are kind of primed to create. We are primed to fix things, produce things, and things like that. So I think it all of that kind of married together when I was making this film. And I really wanted to get the physics of things right. And that is something that everybody laments. Everybody complains about, oh man, our films, they really don't care about physics. I mean, somebody shoots a bazooka at a vehicle, and the vehicle, instead of somehow there's an explosion and the vehicle goes up in the air instead of kind of being rebounded backwards, right? Due to the explosion, due to the physics of the explosion. So, things like that. So I think I've stayed very true to science, which was important. And I think Prakash Belawadi, who also kind of took the script that I had written and kind of doctored it a little bit, was also the same opinion that we need to stay true to the science of things. And that's what we did. And also the science that you use in the film is important. And it had to be real science. So we used science based on what exists. which is there's a scientific experiment in France and also in America, I think. It's called LIGO, LIGO, which I think stands for Light Interferometer Gravitational Observatory or something of that kind. You can look it up on Wikipedia. But what it basically does, it detects very tiny gravity ripples that kind of sweep across space and hit Earth all the time. This gravity ripples can be because of a star exploding or stars colliding or some sort of cosmic event or galaxies colliding some billions of light years away. All of that kind of changes the space and time around us. We don't feel it, the body doesn't feel it, but this system, this experiment where they send a laser across a 5 or 6 mile vacuum tube and bounce it back and measure it at the end of it, that laser, the time taken by that laser or the path changes very slightly because of this gravity ripple that hits Earth. So that's how they detect cosmic events. So this technology, I kind of took that and adapted it to our film. Of course, I made it a little more dramatic and stuff like that to make it entertaining, of course. So the technology has been used. So it's based on real science, and then when we looked at ISRO and NASA launch metrics, rocket launch metrics, we studied that, and what you see on the screen is sort of very realistic. You can rest assured that what you see, what the rocket launch that we show, and the metrics that we show is very similar to what you will see if you walk into an ISRO or a NASA. So all of that takes time, research, effort, and an interest in getting the science right, and we've done that. And also, we built a spaceship from scratch. We designed the spaceship from scratch. When I say spaceship, it was about designing something that would travel interstellar distances, wondering, okay, how would that shape of that ship be if it has to travel through long distances? And where would you put the cockpit? Where would you put, if it had to have an anti-gravity drive, where would you put it? And where would you put the thrusters for it to kind of cruise through space? So all that, we built it, we thought about it, we built it by hand, and we didn't take a template, a design template off of the internet and just modify that, because those are available if you look it up. So we've taken a lot of effort to build the science, to build the technology of this, because we wanted to last a long time, for a sequel, for people to experiment with it, for people to create 3D models and things like that. So we've taken a lot of effort and interest in getting the science right. And I think that's how this film has been built.
I did want to touch upon the fact that this is your directorial debut, right? So, sort of handling the material that you have made and also that your fellow artists have contributed to, you have to sort of spearhead this project, right? How was that experience like, since this was your first?
You asked me a very personal question, Fouzan. I'll tell you why. Because you talked about spearheading something, and that is a lot of responsibility. I have been the writer, the director, and the producer on this film. It is like any startup where you have to wear different hats and kind of shepherd this product that you're creating from start to finish. And being the producer and the director together is like two different, being pulled apart in different directions, because the creative side of you wants to build a castle, and the producer part of you says that, hey, we have money to build maybe a small little apartment, right? And so there's an inherent conflict built into it, and that is something that you have to deal with internally, which I went through. But in general, if you're talking about leadership, if you're talking about leading a group of people to achieve something, that needs that needs a lot of compassion, that needs a lot of kindness, understanding the other person, understanding where the other person is coming from when they are saying something or behaving certain way or suggesting something. I think as a leader, you really have to put yourself in the other person's shoe and see how we could align all of their agency towards building a product that you want to. So, and again, that takes a lot of experience and going through life's journey, learning things and learning people, and seeing how best you can build something with what you have. And I think I've done that with this film. It's taken a couple of years to build it, and we've had a lot of great talent in the group that I had to align towards. It has been challenging at times, very challenging in fact, to deal with people who are a lot more senior to you, different genders, different backgrounds, different perspectives. But when those things happen, you have to. It's very easy to kind of get hurt, let it get through your skin and feel hurt. But I think the trick isn't to realign yourself to the goal, to the product that you're building, and say, okay, what does that product need, and then work backwards from it and make it happen. So it's been challenging, but I'm so glad that we have released the film. It released yesterday, and I hope everybody goes and watches it. And it has a lot of science. It has a lot of technology. It's something new, and I hope it inspires people to build the future of our society.
Definitely, sir. I did also want to talk about, you started off as in UVC, at least if we consider that as the starting point, you started off as a mechanical engineer and then you did a pivot to filmmaking. So how exactly did you do that transition, and how did it affect you after doing the transition?
Wow, Fouzan, you're asking me all the really hard questions. Well, so I pivoted multiple times when I look back, and I think we all do. We all pivot, but we don't call it that, right? After UVCE, after mechanical engineering, I pivoted to technology, and it was I think IT was kicking off at that time. It was taking off. And I was inherently drawn towards computers because even in mechanical engineering, we had the computer-aided design and CAD, CAM, and stuff like that. Even the design part of things, it was done with computers and machines, computing machines. So there was an inherent attraction towards computers and how they worked, and so I think I pivoted to software development initially, and then to general technology, and then technology management, and then I pivoted to filmmaking, but it didn't happen overnight. Once I pivoted to the first pivot to the IT field took a lot of time because I had to educate myself in software development. I had to educate myself in all the basics of computer science. Although we learned a few things in mechanical engineering, but still there was a lot of things that I had to learn on my own. I'm very thankful to my uncle who gifted me at that time, I think it was a 286 machine, an Intel 286. So we had Windows 3.1 on it, we had DOS on it, not even Windows. So I learned through assembly language programming and C programming and all the base system level stuff, and then built on top of that as higher level languages came on board, were invented. So it wasn't a quick pivot. It was a pivot through learning, pivot through interest, and pivot through effort. So all those things happened, and I pivoted to software development. And at the same time, I think the digital cameras were kind of becoming more affordable, although it was about 5 times the size of our phones today, really thick digital cameras. I remember my first camera, it was a Canon S10 or something. And I was fascinated with photography as well. So the art side of it was also pulling at the same time. So I bought a digital camera, I clicked 1 million pictures, I annoyed all my friends by clicking pictures of them all the time, eating, sleeping, etc., etc. But that interest grew. The interest for the visual medium kind of grew. The interest to capture life grew. The interest to kind of see the world through my perspective grew. And digital cameras, I think around that time also started having a video feature where you could capture a few minutes of video at a time. And that's how video kind of came into my life. I started capturing videos and movement and things that were happening around me. And that interest kept growing, and I created some short films. I did some ads and things like that. And I think there was an inherent burning to do a feature length film, a science fiction film, because that such a thing didn't exist, or at least not in the form that I wanted to watch. So I decided to pivot once again, and there was a lot of learning and effort and interest through my photography and short film making and things like that, to jump into making a full feature length film. So that pivot happened 5 years ago. And so here's the product today.
That's amazing, sir. So, 5 years of, really staying true to your passions and just combining all the things that you've learned from technology and then art and videography and everything. You were saying something about sensibility earlier, and I wanted to ask you this question about how, we obviously have personal experiences, and that shapes us into a particular person that perceives art in a unique way. So I will perceive something, one piece of art, differently from how you perceive it, in minute ways, but it's still different. With respect to UVCE and your experience there during those 4 years, how did that experience model your perception towards art?
UVCE, the 4 years, if I look back, I think the one big thing that stands out is not the curriculum, is not the academics. It is none of that. It is my friends who are around me. And I think the group of friends that I hung out with, the group of friends that I ate with, that I went to the movies, that I sat in class with, that I chatted with, that I hung out with. We played Pictionary, we played dumb charades, we did a lot of things together. I think that the collective sensibility, I think, was developed at that time. And I think I'm sure my friends also maybe somewhere think like me, maybe somewhere have gone through life just like me, because I think we developed a collective sensibility that I have today during those 4 years, and that surely informed me, and I think it shaped me to a certain extent on how I would go through life after that, how I would learn, how I would deal with life, how I would deal with a lot of things based on that experience with my friends. When you're learning, you learn not just what's in the textbook, but you learn from people, you learn from your surroundings. You're constantly absorbing it. And I think somewhere all that I absorbed has led me to be me today.
For any student out there who is currently studying engineering, but their passions lies in filmmaking or the arts or something in that area, what would you say to them?
Well, firstly, I would like to congratulate them if they have varied interests. That means they have a creative mind. That means they have a curious mind. And I think with a curious and a creative mind, I think you can do a lot. You can do a lot for the society. Let me put it that way. And well, even if somebody is focused on one thing, I think that is also great. They still do really well, and we've seen examples of that plenty. But what I would kind of nudge people is to explore other things in life, explore tangential things, explore something completely different, because all that informs you and builds who you are in life. And we were talking about sensibility earlier on. That sensibility is built by your interests, is built by what you explore in life. And for example, like there's a saying, a frog in a well kind of perspective, right? Because the frog doesn't know, it thinks the well is its whole world, there's nothing outside of it. So when you jump out of it is when you realize, oh my goodness, there is so much out there. What I know is nothing. And like they say, the more you know, the more you know that you know less. So I would say explore other things, and with AI, with technology exponentially getting powerful, I think having a varied interest is really important, because it goes to what we talked about pivoting. You can pivot really easy to other things. If something gets, they're talking about AI taking over your jobs and things like that. I think AI is a great tool. It'll help complement you, but you really need to have that varied interest to kind of pivot real quick if you want to. And also, if you have a curious mind, if you have a creative mind, monotony really sucks. It sucks your spirit. So if you have other interests, you can indulge in it. It'll keep your life vibrant. It'll keep you happy. And I think generalists are, in general, I think probably they have better opportunities in the coming years than somebody doing just one thing. So yeah, I would say try to make yourself more marketable by exploring more things.
So I am one such person who is studying engineering, but passions are definitely outside of engineering, probably in the arts. So definitely looking up to you right now, sir. And the words of wisdom that you just shared did very much resonated with me. But speaking of advice, I did wanted to ask you, and this is my last question. What was some piece of advice that you wish you were given as a student, as an engineering student in UVCE?
Fouzan, you've asked an amazing question, and I have to take a breather to kind of think through what I have to say on this, because there is a lot of things that you wish you did, you wish you had been told, you wish this, you wish that, and like they say, looking back, hindsight, it's always 20/20. The vision is always clear, because you've been through it, you've been through the journey, you've been through the ups and downs, and you know, okay, I should have probably done this differently. So it's a very, it's hard to answer that question, because we can easily say, based on the things that we have not done right, to say, oh, I wish somebody had told me this so that I wouldn't have done this. But then it would rob me of my experience of life if somebody had told me not to do something, right? It would have taken away the journey, the rich journey that has formed my sensibilities, that has formed me who I am today. So I don't know. Looking back, sometimes I say, okay, man, I wish I'd done this differently. I wish somebody had told me. For example, even in the making of this film, there are just too many things every day. I figure out, okay, this is how it's supposed to be done. But the journey of going through, finding out something, that exploration, I think what makes us engineers, I think what makes us human beings, that exploration is really important to kind of realize the human that we are, or else it would have been, if we would have been machines being told this is how things needs to be done, right? So I think looking back, I am fine. I'm just talking my mind here, thinking on your question. I don't think I'm fine of not having been told what I didn't know. I'm glad I've had this journey of living a good life. I think the question, probably what you asked, was for bigger decisions, or decisions that were not of basic needs, like health, safety, shelter, etc., but of a higher effort that you put into something. For example, taking a course in engineering, or should I have done something else, like you said? Should I have gone into the arts, or done a MFA or something like that? That is something that's your personal journey. I don't think anybody else can tell you what you need to be doing. So it is something that's inherent. People can just suggest that, hey, they can give you options, but you need to be the one to pick it. And once you pick it, you have to go through it. If you pick it and then you drop it, then you start to doubt yourself, and then the next thing you pick, you will be unsure if that's what you want to do, because you already dropped it once. It's easier to drop things than to carry that burden and see it through. So I don't know if I've answered your question, but yeah. But one thing is that I would suggest everybody to look at something called compounding of things, and that is very important, especially compounding of money. If you're from a middle class background and not into a business field, you need to look into compounding of money. A little bit of money, I would suggest everybody, when they get a job, start investing a little bit of money into something where it grows. I think over the next 20 or 25 years, it would have grown into something very significant. And that is not just for money, even for other things in life. If small little things, discipline of exercise, say keeping your body fit, right? Health is really important. Right now, you guys are all very young, but as you grow older, as you touch 30, 35, 40 and grow beyond, you realize, oh man, I should have put in that little effort back then, and I would have been in much better shape right now, right? So let your future self thank you now for what you do today. So keep that in mind. That's about a little bit about compounding, and even in your interests, a little bit of something every day. Like, say if you want to learn the flute or something, you have to put in that effort, a little bit effort every day, over and over and over, and do that, and it compounds to a beautiful note, a beautiful music that'll come out of you in that duration, right? So that's one thing I wanted to tell everybody, is the power of compounding. Look it up online. Another thing is something that I look back and I wish somebody had told me. Maybe, I don't know, if somebody had told me I would have realized it, but still, the thing is not to be afraid to change. And that goes to the concept of pivoting also we talked about. That fear of change, I think, keeps everybody dull, I feel. So fear not about change, but don't give away don't give away more than what the change deserves. So incremental small change is good. For bigger change, you really need to look at what your responsibilities are, who gets affected around you if you change, and then make a decision based on that, if you can pivot. So yeah, the power of compounding, not being afraid to change, I think is something that I would leave the students with.
Ajay sir, thank you so much for sitting down and having this conversation with me. It was delightful, so many key takeaways. Thank you to our listeners who tune in every episode. We'll be back very soon with a new episode, so stay tuned for that.
Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Fouzan, for this. It's been a pleasure talking to you all. And I hope everybody gets to watch the film and we come back and have a follow-on conversation about science, technology, and how we can build the future with what we have. And thank you again. Study well, and there's a beautiful life that's waiting for you all to create.